Dr. Kern Tobias, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the University of the Southern Caribbean, my parliamentary colleague, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Esmond Ford, the Member of Parliament for Tunapuna, permanent secretaries, my parliamentary colleague and cabinet colleague, Dr. Nian Gadsby-Dolly, Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Michael Bradshaw, Executive Director of the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago, representatives from the Inter-American Division of the SDA, representatives of the Caribbean Union College of SDA, members of the University of Southern Caribbean Board of Trustees and Vice Presidents, representatives of the Southern Caribbean Conference of SDA, specially invited guests, excited graduates, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin by thanking the administration of this venerable institution for inviting me to share with you this very special day, this very special occasion. It was not too long ago that I had the opportunity of visiting you at the campus. And who can forget the excitement in your streets and in your assembly? And I did promise, if the opportunity arose, that I'll come back and spend some time with you on the day of graduation. Many of you might think that I was doing that because of your graduation. What you may not have known, that I was doing that maybe in fulfillment of my own graduation. Because as I stand in this get-up today, it's the first time I'm wearing one of these with students like you, because I never got to wear any in my own time. I was always in the wrong place at the right time. And after spending all my adult life, more or less, at UWI, I missed my bachelor's graduation, my master's graduation, my PhD graduation. Once I wore a gown, but as a member of staff, not as a student. But today I feel like a student. And I have a small feeling that I know how you feel being there to your graduation. And when I was asked to come and talk to you today and share this moment with you, I knew I had to make a speech. And I kept thinking, what do I say to my favorite students from Marcus Valley? And think as I might, nothing came to mind. There's only, the two tunes kept coming to my head all the time, and I just couldn't get them out to be able to craft a speech for you today. So maybe I should use the same tunes to talk to you. And the first one is one of my favorite tunes, written by Burt Bacharach and sung by Diane Warwick. And it's my favorite tune called Alfie. And it's a simple question. What's it all about? Because the question is, what's it all about, Alfie? Is it just for the moment we live? So I want to ask you today, on your very special day, as you look so beautiful in your attire as graduates today, what is this all about? What is it all about? What is education about? It has to be something very important, because if we look at our national budget going back to the 50s, you will see that on every occasion, the single largest component of the national allocation for service of the country had been on education. And it had been so right up until recently, when something has happened in the country and now we are spending more money on national security than we are spending on education. But if education is that important, requiring us for decades to have focused on it primarily, then could we allow national security to let education become less important? For some people, today is the day that you are educated because you get your certificates today, you graduate today, you become a graduate in your special field. Well, it couldn't be about that. It couldn't be about the certificate. It had to be about your life. It had to be about a choice that you have made sometime earlier to want to be something that you set about to get the required training and experience in to be able to walk the path that you set out to walk when you chose to do that vocation. So as I looked at your theme for today's gathering, you said, you're beginning a journey and you're hoping to leave a legacy. That journey would have been a journey chosen by you, largely. You might have been influenced, but at the end of the day, you would have chosen a journey through life. But where are you making this journey? Is it through a Garden of Eden, or is it through a desert? Because life comes in very many forms. And it's because you have to make this journey that you have decided to become a nurse, to become a doctor, a social worker, whatever. You've chosen that. And today you're going to graduate. And it brings me to my other tune. And it's Johnny Taylor's Baby, Can I Change My Mind? How many of you today are thinking about changing your mind? I don't think many of you are. Because you have confidence that you have chosen wisely and that you have prepared well. But education in itself shouldn't have an end. It should be a process of lifelong endeavor. You would have been certified, you would have practiced, and you would walk into a job more than likely in keeping with the training that you've had. But you're beginning a journey, and that journey in itself would expose you to more education. And hopefully you would have understood the process of learning, the process of researching, finding answers, but most importantly, identify character, the role of character, your own character, and attitude, your own attitude, as you step out in this journey. Whatever you set out to be, those who would have guided you to this place today would hope that you would be the best that you can be, that you would make them proud, having inculcated the standards and values that have been the hallmarks of the places you've been with them. And coming out of a university that has as its basis religious principles and foundations of the Seventh-day Adventists, I'm sure they'd want to say to you that you hold yourself to a higher standard and to a higher calling. And we look forward to our country being better for every one of you having chosen what you have chosen and chosen to walk the road that you intend to walk as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. In this country, our national anthem says, and we believe it, and we must live it, every creed and race finds an equal place. And if we follow that doctrine, Trinidad and Tobago would be the model nation that Sparrow sang about in 1962. Today, It's with great pride and honor that I have the opportunity to look at you as citizens of whom all our other citizens can be proud. Only recently, I had the opportunity to speak to the president of Howard University in Washington and the president of Medgar Evers University in New York. And interestingly enough, the tone of their conversation and the excitement of them wanting to look towards the Southern Caribbean fits into the same vein that our interim president just mentioned, that your university is open, your doors are wide open, your faculties are expecting to reach out not just to Maracas Valley, but to the region, to the Caribbean, to Grenada, to St. Vincent, to Tobago, to Colombia, and to let that flow into your university so that what is offered by the University of the Southern Caribbean would be second to none. At Medgar Evers, they describe this as a pipeline from the north to the south, and from the south to the north, an education pipeline. And if the managers of those universities are thinking that way, and you at USC and UWI and UTT are thinking the same way, then the future of education for the region is bright, and there are many, many doors to be opened. And some of you sitting here today might have the opportunity of going into other halls of learning to continue your education. I would like to believe that what you graduate in today would have been the first phase, a beginning, either a beginning into a job for which you're prepared, or a beginning to another phase of learning, so that you can become even better trained to make a greater contribution to the national development. You see, when we became independent, there were a lot of people who had concerns about our ability to run our nation. But I think it's well and truly established that we are an independent nation. And there's a lot to be done in this country. A lot that has to be done by us for ourselves. And it is your training and your presence and your willingness to walk that road that you're walking now that will make this nation a success. But you as young students, you as young people, you as new persons who will be given responsibility for the next generation, for the next steps of the country, the question is, what is it all about? It's about success. Today, your presence, this program, your outfits, the smiles on your parents' face, the community from which you come, they see your graduation as success. Because success can be described as the attainment of satisfaction. And I'm sure that you are satisfied that having entered the programs that you've entered, today, graduating at this place, that you have succeeded in your endeavor. But at the national level, there's a lot more success to be had. At the personal level, there's a lot more success to be had. But you know, success usually, very frequently, requires change. And change is a word that scares a lot of people. Because a lot of people are satisfied with what exists at the moment. It's called the status quo. It might be working for some, but it might not be working for others. And as you look at the wider picture, there might be a requirement for change. But change usually causes conflict. And sometimes that conflict boils over into controversy. But you, of this new generation, this brave generation, this journey that you are on, I want to appeal to you today to not to be afraid to embrace change. Because you see, If those who fought slavery were afraid to challenge and were afraid of change, today you might still have been the children of slaves looking forward to the plantation tomorrow, working for free with the whip on your back. It was change that made that difference. And there was a time, if you had to prove how much you loved God, you could have been required to shed blood of your own firstborn, so as to prove that you were loving God. Thankfully, change came, and we can do that without those gory details. In our country today, do not turn your face away from the governance of your country, and do not believe that that belongs to other people. I want to say to you people today, young people of the USC, you have a requirement to pay attention to what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And if you see a requirement for change, then you are required to demand that change, because your voice is as good as and as useful as and must be heard like anybody else. So if today the change that is being demanded in this country is that we do not marry 12-year-olds and girls under 18, well then you ought to have a point of view, and you ought to express that point of view. And if it is that your country is being run by a series of operatives where the bulk of your resources are in the hands of state enterprises which are mismanaged and required to be reviewed, and there are changes to be made so that they can be improved, so that success will come our way, you need to pay attention to that. And there will be voices that will say, no change is required because it's working well for me. And the change that you may be advocating might require an adjustment on their part. But as long as the change that you are advocating or that you will advocate is about reason, is about fairness, is about justice, well then, you should do so without fear or without trepidation. You should be able to stand and identify with the change that you're advocating. And I can tell you one thing. Our experience as a young nation has shown that we've made a lot of progress since 1962. If I had the time today, I could list them all for you. But we've also fallen short in very many ways. And the world of 2016 is not the world of 1962. It's not even the world of 2000. It's a very different world. Today, we are spending more money on national security because our very lives depend on it. Not just on what is happening inside of Trinidad and Tobago, in our streets in central and northern Trinidad, but what's happening in the world around us. Our security is of paramount importance to us. Walking amongst us in Trinidad and Tobago today are a number of unidentified murderers. They might be right in front of you, buying a roti in the counter, right in front of you, and you don't know who they are. Because it is unacceptable for a small society like this to be facing hundreds of people being murdered every year, and you don't know who is doing this. And what is worse, in some communities, they are known to the communities, but there's fear in the community in identifying the murderers around us. These are the issues of today. And you people going out as young people to take up positions of authority amongst us, you need to have a point of view. And you need to say that point of view to the rest of the country as you do your job to the best of your ability. We expect others to do theirs to the best of their ability. Today, as a small country, we boast of a university like yours. A significant amount of our resources have come your way, from your parents, from your teachers, and from the National Treasury. we take it for granted. I ask you, do not take it for granted. See it as an investment. The investment you made in yourself. The time you spent burning the midnight oil. The time that the lecturers spent preparing you. And the time that the country spent waiting on you to come and take up your position in the development of Trinidad and Tobago. As I looked across the gathering, I've been also looking for the men, the few and far between. As a father of girls, I'm proud that in my country, there is no real obstacle in the way of women becoming the best that they can be. But there's a concern. There's a concern, which ought to be a national concern, that our men folk are not as present as they should be. It is something that we have to focus on to ensure that we walk hand in hand and side by side. And that a lot of the social stresses that will follow, if this pattern continues, where whenever we come to the graduations, we see the vast majority of females doing well, very proud of you. And whenever we heard about the misconduct in the country, it is usually the men folk. We need to change that. And we change it by paying attention to our own circumstances, starting with ourselves, in our household, in our communities, and at the end of the day, in our nation. I have no doubt that as we set about as a nation and expecting that a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago would be a certain kind of person, that in this gathering of USC, we would find the people whom Trinidad and Tobago look forward to as model citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Our nation depends on you. We need to examine what we have done. We need to identify what has worked well for us and defend and stand with it. We need to be brave and bold enough to identify what is not working and to be able to say that if it is not working, it requires change. And that is the journey that you are embarking upon now, even if you don't know it. Because if that change does not come, then the satisfaction that is associated with success will not come. And even after all that has happened, you may find yourself at the end of the day being cynical, saying that success is beyond us, not only at the personal level, but at the national level. Let us never find ourselves questioning the future of our nationhood. We have to understand that difficult as it might be, traumatic as it might be, requiring turning over from time to time, we always have to believe that success will come our way if we do what is right, what is fair, what is reasonable, and I dare say, what is righteous. So today, I want to congratulate all of you for taking the time out at this stage in your life, going into this university, spending time and putting out effort to prepare yourself to contribute to nation building in Trinidad and Tobago. Because we all know that nothing worth having can really be had properly and legally without effort. And you have made that effort, and today you're graduating as a mark of the effort, and having met the standards of the university, you have made us all very proud, and we look forward to the next generation with boundless faith in our destiny as a nation. Go forth and build that legacy that you dream of, a legacy that is associated with this university, the University of the Southern Caribbean in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for the opportunity.